in the high desert in the great American Southwest.
Welcome to Coast AM. John, welcome to the program. It's good to have you with us. You're with us.
Welcome back to Coast PM, the number one unofficial Coast to Coast AM podcast, where two brothers listen to Coast AM so that you don't have to. My name is Paul, your resident skeptic.
Hey, and this is Chris, your resident guy who also doesn't listen to Coast AM.
Great job. We're nailing this new intro. We're doing great.
I'm going to probably change that one up a bit every single time.
You know, I would like to hone in on it at some point.
I'm gonna make mine. Because color commentary, no preparation.
Why prepare? Why would you ever
prepare? I'm the color commentary.
That's not what you do. Which is fine. We're gonna make it work. You know, I hear the pros have good intros, so trying to get there. But Chris, today, this episode,
I'm naturally charismatic and funny, which means I never have to prepare for anything.
That is how you've lived your entire life. Yes.
My entire life.
Your entire adult life has been just not preparing for anything.
No preparation whatsoever. And look, I've failed miserably. Maybe we won't do it here.
Hey,
let's go, baby.
Hey, you're a podcaster, so
I'm a podcaster,
you're doing something right.
So I'm working on it.
We're getting there. So, Chris, today I got a special surprise for you.
Another Tim Banal piece.
Oh, well, yes, obviously we're doing another Tim Banal piece, but first off, we're going to be talking.
We're going to have to sit down with Tim and buy him a drink at some point, dude. I feel like way too many jokes have been at this man's expense.
He has his own podcast. Maybe we'll just have him on.
Maybe we'll have him on. Maybe we'll go on his. We're giving Tim a ton of love, though.
Dude, he's the best. He's my favorite. But no, even better than Tim Banal, Chris. Today, we're going to be talking about one of your favorite people ever, Graham Hancock.
Yes, dude. You know I love Graham.
Yeah. And for listeners that have not been around our Christmas dinner table, oftentimes Chris will let me know all about Graham Hancock.
That's right, dude. The new
ancient
civilizations being made constantly, dude. Constantly.
And it's everywhere. It is everywhere. So for those of you who don't know, Graham Hancock is described as a pseudo archaeologist and pseudo historian by those who don't agree with him on things.
I was gonna say, dude, real easy on the pseudos.
It's all over the place. Now, if you do agree with him
on the pseudos,
if you do agree with him or work for Coast to Coast, then he is a leading expert in ancient civilization theory.
Then he's an absolute genius.
One of the smartest men alive. And ancient civilization theory is that there was this super, or at least relatively advanced ancient civilization from 100,000, even longer ago, potentially, that was wiped out or destroyed in some way prior to what we know as modern civilization, which began to rise up about 10,000 years ago.
You know, Paul, about 200 years ago, there was this doctor who said that doctors needed to wash their hands before they performed surgery, and everyone thought that he was a madman. So much so that he went into an insane asylum.
It's funny how every crazy person on Coast to Coast brings up those exact same stories.
I figured, dude, I'm pretty sure I've heard Graham bring that one up too. So
science is wrong sometimes.
Yeah, that's right, dude. Aristotle looked like a bitch.
But before we get there, we have to check in with our boy Tim Banal, blog writer of Coast to Coast AM's blog.
What's he talking? What are we talking? What's the? Give me the title of this little episode.
So this is a great one.
Okay.
Woman dating alien appears on British morning program alongside her ET boyfriend.
I can't wait for the great find on the weekly blog post.
This was one of Tim Banal's better finds, I have to say.
Really?
Pretty hilarious.
How good is it?
Pretty good.
Okay.
It's in the best.
All right. The title's incredible.
The title's great. So let's dig into this
okay.
article here by the great Tim Banal.
Yes.
A woman who claims to be dating an alien recently detailed her rather unorthodox relationship during a bizarre segment on a British morning television program.
Let me just qualify something. She doesn't mean an immigrant, right? She is referring to an extraterrestrial.
She is referring to an ET, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yes.
All
so
right.
actress Abby Bella, who now goes by the moniker Emanuela Rose, made headlines last spring after she asserted that she had been abducted by aliens, and in the process, an unexpected romance developed between she and one of her interstellar captors.
Wow.
1 year later, it would appear the very long-distance relationship is apparently still going strong, as she provided new insights into their very peculiar connection during an appearance on the nationally televised British program This Morning.
Now, this woman, her name's Abby Bella, and she changed her name to Emanuela Rose.
Yes.
That's a more difficult name and less of a stage name than Abby Bella.
Substantially more complicated. Usually you shorten it or make it easier to say, like a Tom Cruise.
Emanuela?
Yeah.
What? I've never even heard a person have that name.
I don't understand why she picked that. She's an interesting human being. I'll say that much.
Well, she's dating an extraterrestrial, so she must be a little bit interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy having an ET boyfriend. You gotta be a little wonky to get in on that.
So she's about to, if she has a child, it'll be the Nephilim, right?
Maybe. I don't know. How are the
going.
Nephilim related to the Greys?
Because the Greys had sex with monkeys and they became Nephilim.
Then yeah, actually, I think she would. So during the interview, which ran
she's dating a Grey.
She's dating what is a Grey, essentially.
She's into short, bald dudes.
Yes.
Hey, listeners. Yeah, I mean, that's probably our only type that would listen to our show. Short, bald dudes. You got a shot in Australia. Baby.
I'll have you know, I got a full head of hair over here, Chris.
Well, you're not a listener.
That's true. That's true. Do you mind explaining what a Grey is for those in our audience who are the uninitiated?
Yeah. So, I mean, a Grey is just your classic alien caricature, right? The oval head with the big black eyes, the little pinpricks for a nose, and typically a straight line mouth. They're typically about 3.5, 4 feet tall. I mean, like I said, this is your classic alien. Mm-hmm. I believe I had a picture of a Grey on my 4th grade binder, and he was surfing through outer space.
You did, didn't you?
So
I remember that.
I see Greys in my dreams all the time.
So, and she's dating one, which is great. So during the interview, which ran a shockingly long 9 minutes. So just as a reminder, this is 9 minutes on British television, nationally syndicated show of a lady talking about how she was dating an alien. Rose appeared alongside a small inflatable depiction of a classic Grey alien that she explained was meant to serve as a placeholder for her ET paramour, whom she communicates with telepathically.
I thought that the blow up doll was about to be the boyfriend, and I was going to freak out.
It's a stand-in, and the blow up doll itself is actually green, but it's a classic rendition of a Grey alien, which is the short alien with
for whatever reason, cartoons always make them green.
They make them green. I don't know why.
But in real life, these beings are Grey.
They're actually Grey. Yeah,
they're actually Grey.
Despite the undeniably strange nature of their guest and her claims, hosts Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield expressed genuine curiosity about her fantastic tale, treating it with a seriousness that made the entire segment seem almost surreal as they discussed the benefits and challenges of dating an alien.
That's just too good, dude. That's just too good. Keep going.
And as you're watching it, they actually are really nice, and they're just like, "Wow, so what's this like?" It's quite fun. So
they think she could possibly be mentally challenged, so I think they're like trying not to like push her over the edge.
It's like talking to like a kid who has an imaginary friend. You're like, oh, what's his name? He's a rainbow colored monkey who can fly. That's great.
And what does Mr. Tinkerbell do?
Yeah, exactly. So when asked if our planet is being visited by a variety of ETs, Rose indicated that, quote, my boyfriend doesn't want to tell me too much about the topic, since the less I know, the less the FBI can interrogate me.
So the Brits are worried about the FBI?
Yeah, so I
that
think
seems to be the wrong agency.
Yeah, I think she's American, but she lives in London, which
Okay.
the FBI doesn't have jurisdiction in London.
But if she ever came back,
I guess if she comes home, she'll get
States,
picked up by the FBI.
they're going to be like, you, the one, Emanuela, who's dating
Emmanuel.
the alien.
Yeah. Well, and if you're worried about the FBI, maybe you shouldn't be going on a national morning show in the
You
UK.
would think that would
That's
be
a concern.
number one thing you wouldn't do.
Yeah. I got to keep this a secret or the FBI will pick me up.
Though famously, the FBI does not watch British daytime television.
Oh, but you know who does?
Who?
Aliens.
That's right.
We'll get to that clip in a second.
Okay.
She revealed that the Earth is not a particularly popular place among beings living in space, since humans are perceived as self-centered. As such, she observed, nobody really wants to come here, and that in the alien communities on other planets, it's like a downgrade to be sent to Earth.
It's funny that an actress is telling us that the world is too self-centered.
Yeah.
That's kind of a funny thing. Maybe
That
a
is
little too on the nose.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
Too on the Emanuela Rose.
There you go. Exactly. Okay. So regarding her romantic relationship, Rose lamented that she cannot travel to her boyfriend's home planet due to the limits of the human body and space travel, but that he visits the Earth on a frequent basis and actually takes her out on dates to the cinema. Having been together for a little over a year, she now hopes that the couple can get married soon. However, being pretty traditional, she expects her ET partner to provide an engagement ring, which has proven to be problematic since the alien has no Earth money and does not quite grasp the concept of marriage. That said, considering the challenges the couple have already overcome in their interstellar relationship, one would be wise not to bet against them hearing wedding bells in the future.
Oh my God. This is unbelievable.
So now we're going to play a little bit of audio from this video, Chris, because I want you to be able to hear her voice as well. It's very convincing.
Is she a good-looking woman?
Let's play the clip.
Okay, play the clip.
Let's go back. Let's go back because how you met's pretty interesting, and this all started with a post on
wow,
Instagram.
She looks like an alien.
She has had a lot of plastic surgery. Very done up, and she has a choker on, which is interesting. And you can see her little green alien here. So
has this woman actually been in anything?
You know, I didn't actually check.
And you know, now that I'm seeing her, I'm totally getting why she changed her name to Emanuela Rose. This is a woman who would definitely have done that.
Yeah, she definitely is. So
this
how
is
did she meet her
so
alien
much
friend?
More sense.
How'd she meet her alien friend is where we're at.
Yeah, it did. Well, I don't know how this works exactly, and he hasn't told me, but so originally my thing is I'm an actor, and I have an Instagram, and I post a lot of fun stories about my life in London and dating and stuff like that.
London.
And I started doing these little sketches, these little jokes about Tinder and Bumble, and how it would be better to get abducted by aliens than to do another date on Tinder.
Well, be careful what you ask for, because
I know.
that's exactly what happened.
So not only do these aliens watch the telly, but they're also on Instagram.
Yeah, apparently. I don't think
They're
most of
on
them are
Instagram.
on Instagram. And they don't understand everything that happens here. Like, they don't understand the Kardashians, for example. And they were confusing Boris Johnson
Nobody
with,
understands the Kardashians.
Did you hear? They were confusing Boris Johnson with Mr. Bean for a while, was what you just said.
This is all like just that woman. Like, she doesn't understand, right? She's like, I thought Boris Johnson was Mr. Bean.
Very much so. And you know who she looks like? She looks like a off-brand version of the mom from American Pie.
Interesting. Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Like
Stifler's mom.
Yeah, Stifler's mom, kind of like the Dr. Thunder version of Stifler's mom, Dr.
the
Pepper.
Mr. Pibb to the Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Right.
So just a little off, but that was another wonderful addition by Mr. Bernal to the
What
Coast
a
to Coast
find
blog.
from Timmy, dude. I mean, he really hit it out of the park on that one. And I will say this, though, dude, again, keeping with my theory that somehow Coast to Coast is getting a little kickback, dude. You think this woman's like publicist or agent was like, Timmy, put this up for us. She's about to be a big star in London.
Could have been, man. Could have been. I mean, I can also imagine her on some sort of like reality TV situation.
Definitely.
Like weird dating scenarios. Like my boyfriend's an alien.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. She's going to have a Lifetime movie.
For sure.
No time.
Yeah. So
Hallmark Channel has already called and they're writing the story now.
Yeah.
And she's going to play herself.
I hope so.
Finally get that acting credit she's been working for.
And I hope they keep the green blow up alien doll.
Oh my God. They have to keep that, dude. What, the lengths some people go to be famous.
They'll do pretty much anything.
That's a strange one, though.
Yeah.
I'm dating an extraterrestrial.
She's having a good time.
She looked like she was having a wonderful time.
She looks so happy.
These aliens just don't understand what you British people are doing.
I love the aliens just picking up these random people and then giving them some sort of like special purpose or special job or like starting to date them. It's just very interesting. It's that it always seems to happen that way. Like, wow, you're just a bomb.
The aliens thought potato chips were oh shit, I messed that joke up. I got a fish and chips, and the alien thought they were gonna be potato chips and they're French fries.
Exactly.
That's it. That's all.
That's it. You got there. All right. So
it was bad. Cut that.
You're the one that cut shit.
I'm keeping
Producer.
It in. I'm keeping it in.
All right. So next we are going to jump into our episode from Mr. Graham Hancock, Chris.
Yes, dude.
And before we jump in, what this is specifically about is, Graham Hancock has done a lot of work on ancient civilizations pre our current one, which started 10,000 years ago. So thinking like 20, 30, 50,000 years ago, right? And
not that long ago. Well, it may have originally started, but the thinking is that about 10,800 years ago was when this civilization would have been destroyed in a meteor shower that the Earth went through. And a lot of our deluge stories, and for those of you that don't know the English language, deluge means flood. And so our flood story, so Noah being the one in the West that most of us know, Noah's Ark, it rains for 40 days, 40 nights. The man goes into he goes into an ark, he brings two of each animal, the blah, 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 saves humanity. And so there are tales of this story kind of throughout the world. And so Graham's original thinking was that this is actually a true event that has been passed through myth.
Yes,
so
great breakdown. You have listened to a lot of Graham.
Oh, dude, I'm an aficionado, dude.
Apparently. So let's kick it off with Graham describing the normie view of history. And what is referred to as the Clovis culture that grew up in so
America. This is it. We're doing his Native American work.
We're doing his
America's
work, work. Yeah. But it also touches on Egyptians and quite a few other things.
Yeah.
Specifically,
he'll always bring that kind of stuff up, but he's gone through series, right? Mm-hmm. So there was like the fingerprints of the gods. Then his update is the magicians of the gods. And then I haven't read his Native American, life in the Americas stuff. Now he does talk a lot about, in those other books, a lot about the Mayans and Aztecs and stuff like that. But I don't know a lot about his North America work.
Yeah. And a quick caveat, he does not claim to be an archaeologist. He doesn't claim to be a historian. He actually says that he's a journalist.
He's a journalist.
Is how he defines it. So none of this has been peer reviewed is an important aspect to talk about.
Yeah.
So we'll jump into the normie view of
I'm
how
just
humans
saying
came to America.
You doubt Graham Hancock at your own
got a lot of doubt in here, man.
At your own peril, dude.
Let's play the clip. Clip.
Start me off. Let's go.
Has been substantially neglected by archaeologists when it comes to considering the origins of civilization. I'm not saying there's been no archaeology done in America. There's been massive amounts of archaeology done in America. But until very recently, it was based on the assumption that the Americas, both North America and South America, were amongst the very last places on Earth to be inhabited by human beings. And these Clovis people are supposed to have come across the Bering Straits, which were then an exposed land bridge. Sea level was lower during the Ice Age. They're supposed to have entered America about 13,000 or 13,500 years ago. And this view was supported by very powerful scholars, very powerful archaeologists, and it became a rigid dogma.
All right, so the dogma being that people crossed the land bridge and came to the Americas, which is how most people have learned the history of North America, right?
The Bering Strait from Russia to Alaska, through if you're a risk player, the famous Kamchatka.
Yes, it's very true. The Kamchatka, great access route there.
Yeah,
but according to Graham Hancock, that whole thing's bullshit, right? Whole thing's bullshit. And there was actually an advanced civilization prior to that wasn't the Americas.
I don't know if Graham necessarily thinks that people didn't cross the Bering Strait, just that there may have already been people here.
Well, so I don't know what he thinks about people crossing the Bering Strait specifically, but it's not the reason why there are humans in America.
Yeah, it was already peopled, right? It would be like saying Christopher Columbus discovered America, and it's like, dude, there were a bunch of people already here before Christopher Columbus discovered it.
Yeah, so he now goes into that advanced civilization that was, quote unquote, lost to time.
Right.
But now we have evidence that humans were in America for 130,000 years.
Oh, wow.
That
a long
leaves
time.
A tremendous scope for the development of civilization in America. And then a cataclysm unfolded between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. It wasn't a single event. It was a series of catastrophic events which changed the world completely. Famously wiped out the megafauna, the saber-toothed tigers, the woolly rhinos, the mammoths, the mastodons. They all went extinct at this time. It's an episode that geologists call the Younger Dryas. And I think that an advanced civilization was lost to history in that period between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago. And what I suggest in America before, based on the latest evidence, is that the homeland of that civilization was in the Americas.
So what he's talking about there, the Younger Dryas was a glacial event where around 13,000 to 11,000 years ago, glacial conditions begin to reverse. So things had started getting a bit warmer, and then things started to get colder at that point in time. So during this event, Greenland's temperatures from, the core samples and whatnot that they've been able to pull, Greenland dropped between 4 to 10 degrees Celsius, while some regions in the Americas, because climate's weird, actually warmed slightly. So it kind of depends on the region that you're in, but glaciers moved more south than they would have otherwise during that time period.
And also, I think just to make this clear, geologically speaking, it's like in a blink of an eye.
Yes.
That we get these crazy changes.
Very much.
And again, I think to be fair to Graham and to be fair to Randall Carlson, who's another one of these researchers that's done a lot of work on this time period, there was no great explanation as to why this happened. And Graham and Randall came up with the explanation that has been proven to be the most likely candidate for what happened in the Younger Dryas period.
Are you referring to the impact hypothesis?
Yeah.
I would disagree with the fact that it's been proven to be the most likely candidate. It's not considered a likely candidate at all by mainstream archaeologists.
I would love to see where you brought that from, because I was literally just reading an article in Discover about they think that they found the Younger Dryas impact.
I would like to see that, because everything I found online has shown that no one really buys this. And that this impact hypothesis says that the asteroid broke into a bunch of pieces and hit North America, but that it basically doesn't play out that way when you look at the evidence.
I mean, I'm pulling up articles right now, Paul, and like Sage and Science Direct, and
saying that there was an asteroid that hit during the Younger Dryas.
Yeah,
and that it's the most likely hypothesis to explain.
Yeah, that people that there was. I mean, when Graham started this in the first place, a lot of people said that it was BS. But that as more and more evidence has come together, that it's now a leading theory to what happened during the Younger Dryas.
What are you reading? I have not seen this.
Type in. So here's
like, what's the website?
Well, this is on journals.sagepub, published in January 5, 2022. It's the premature rejection in science, the case of the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. Within 2 months of its appearance, two authors called the hypothesis a Frankenstein's monster, and in 2011, the same two plus others compared it to UFOs and other examples of pathological science and wrote its requiem. Yet after a comprehensive review of the literature in 2021, Sweatman concluded, probably with the YD impact event essentially confirmed, the YD impact hypothesis should now be called a theory. The question this article seeks to answer is how scientists can so thoroughly reject a hypothesis, even write its requiem, only to have it emerge in little more than a decade, strengthened and deserving of possible promotion to the status of theory. So maybe not the most likely, but it is definitely a theory that should be discussed and looked into more.
At no point did I say it was not a theory. It has been written about, it has been peer reviewed, but it is not considered the most likely theory.
What's the most likely theory?
I don't fucking know. I only looked into this one.
Well, it's a theory.
It is a theory, but you can't say that it is true.
But it's not total bupkis.
No, there are reasons to believe that it's not accurate. For instance, if you look at the population records that we were able to ascertain through fossils, there's no evidence that there was this massive drop in humanoid population during that time period. It is also used by Graham as a way of saying that it's why megafauna went extinct, but that also does not match up with the records because megafauna did not go extinct across the Americas at the same time. There's hundreds of years of gaps between regions. So it wouldn't necessarily be because a giant asteroid hit. So there are reasons to not believe this particular theory.
I think again, one of the things that we have to remember, though, especially when we start going this far back, is that the amount of fossil record that we actually have is negligent. Like saying that, oh, we didn't find a whole dearth of dead human bones doesn't mean anything, because I remember reading.
Well, it does mean something, because if you're trying to claim evidence of something, you have to have evidence to support that claim, right?
But the evidence comes in other ways. The evidence comes through, did we go through a meteor shower at that time? Is there evidence of media particulate?
One data point's not inherently conclusive, but you have to look at the mass of the data.
But also you got to look at, is there physical evidence of this mass melting that, Graham and Randall Carlson claim, and they think that they have strong evidence for that. And I think it's interesting.
Listen, all I'm saying is that this is not a fact that there was some sort of giant asteroid, and there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, and it's not the leading hypothesis of why this occurred.
to be fair, it wouldn't have been a giant asteroid.
It's an asteroid that broke into a bunch of tiny pieces.
But it's not an asteroid, it's a meteor.
Okay.
They're two different things.
Okay.
But
Not
go
the
ahead,
leading
please.
theory. He picked a theory that has been peer reviewed and shot down by a lot of people.
He came up with the theory, to be fair.
Did he come up with the theory?
People were not discussing it. I don't know if he.
I don't think he came up with this theory. I think this
popular-
theory was already out there.
We'll say
he
this,
got it
he
popularized.
it.
Yeah,
He popularized
because he
it.
said that there was like an Atlantis in America. Basically, he's like a Mormon. The Garden of Eden was in Missouri.
Hey man, if a couple, how many Mormons are there? Probably like a couple million Mormons can't be wrong.
Good luck cutting that. They're just massive dead air points in that while I was waiting for you to Google. So cut that out.
Dude, you already got me heated up.
Dude,
and we've
I'm
listened to one
I'm
clip.
going to make you so mad during this.
I'm going to burst a blood vessel. Keep going.
All right. So now
I'm so excited.
I know when you hear about an ancient civilization, though, right, or an advanced ancient civilization, a lot of times you'll probably think in some sort of shit from Atlantis or like Thor's Ragnarok, right?
Right.
Where they have some sort of crazy technology, which is not what he's talking about, to be fair.
No.
So let's hear from Graham.
Probably pre-industrial.
Yes.
Is that we're dealing with a civilization during the Ice Age that was at least as advanced as our civilization was in the late 18th century. And the reason that I say that, there are many reasons, but one of the most compelling is the survival of ancient maps.
So not super high tech, but pretty damn high tech when you look at the grand scheme of human civilization, right? So 18th century type advancements.
And if I'm getting too far ahead, he considered them to be very good navigators, very good readers of the stars, astronomers, and that they were probably more in tune with the Earth than our civilization is today.
Yeah, and that's going to be a great segue for this next clip where he talks about why he came to this conclusion. One of the big things that he continues to bring up is maps. Yeah. So, Chris, are you familiar with the? I believe it's the Piri-Reis map.
Piri-Reis map, dude. Okay. I know all about it, baby.
You may hate me again after this bit, but let's listen to him describe it.
Yeah.
Maps that were copied from much older source maps, which in turn were copied from older source maps. The thing about these maps is that they show the world as it looked during the last ice age. It's only recently that our science has understood how the world looked during the last ice age. It was a very different place. Sea level was 400 feet lower than it is today. 400 feet lower. 10 million square miles of land, that's roughly Europe and China added together, were above water during the ice age that are underwater today. There was no Persian Gulf. There was no Red Sea.
All right, so the map that he was referring to was a world map made in 1514 by an Ottoman admiral named Admiral Piri-Reis, and it was commissioned by the Ottoman Empire.
Right.
So with this specific map, only 1/3 of it has actually survived, and Piri-Reis is said to have used 10 different Arab sources and 4 Indian map sources from Portugal. The basic claim being is that these maps were based on older maps, which were based on older maps that looked like what the Earth would have been like during the Ice Age, and therefore that is evidence for an advanced civilization.
Right.
Now, my massive issues with that is, number one, he was attempting to create an accurate map. He wasn't trying to show anything historical. He wanted this to look like what the Earth actually looks like.
Right. Absolutely.
He's using maps based on other maps because that's what you did back then. Just like every Bible that you found in 1514 was based on an older Bible and an older Bible and an older Bible. That's all you had to reference.
They're everything's hand copied. There's no machines that can make these things. Like, you had to use previous source material because that's all you had.
Yeah, that's all you had. And the map itself was actually one of the better maps for 1514. And one of the things that he calls out is their ability to use longitude in these maps, which we weren't very good at guessing longitude back then. It was really hard to figure out. But he did a pretty good job of it, which is good. But the map itself, he calls out certain pieces of the map that seem to correlate with what the world looked like prior to, I guess, back in the Ice Age. But the thing is, the map was just like, it was an old map. It's just not very good. A lot of it's wrong. Like, he takes out a massive chunk of South America. He has the Virgin Islands in there twice. Like, it's just not that accurate. So to say that it's proof of an advanced civilization, it doesn't really make much sense to me at all.
But you're missing the point where Graham's claim isn't that it's the Earth as it is today. It would be the Earth as it was during the last Ice Age.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense because he's basing it off other maps that are based off what people thought the Americas actually looked like today, like off of Christopher Columbus's information, off shit like that. He had never been there. So to say that these maps are somehow based on maps that were 20,000 years old, there's no evidence to support that claim.
Well, right. So
besides the fact that they were wrong, that's his only evidence here is that they were inaccurate in certain respects. But he doesn't talk about the inaccuracies that don't support what he's saying, which is the fact that a huge chunk of South America is missing.
So, okay, but I think really the point that you're missing, though, is the claim of Antarctica. That is the big idea with the Piri Rice maps, is that this Ottoman naval admiral had Antarctica in his maps, or the land that we now know as Antarctica in his maps. Antarctica wasn't discovered until like the late 1700s. And so that is the strong claim with the Piri Rice maps.
No, I'm gonna have to fucking stop talking again. Because dude, this is such bullshit. It's such bullshit. But I don't have the history of Antarctica on my thing. Okay, here's my other fucking thing. They're from America. Why couldn't they fucking draw America then? Like, honestly, like, why couldn't they accurately draw America?
Well, but again,
they're from America.
You're coming into the corruption of the source material over thousands and thousands of years. And these maps would have been corrupted because that they were from a pre world that didn't exist for us. South America, North America look incredibly different than they did 10 to 15,000 years ago. When the claim that these maps, the original maps, that these, iterations, these generations of maps were made. And I agree with you. Like, yeah, that Antarctica or South America doesn't look right. It looks, a little similar, right? But the big claim there is that he has a landmass of Antarctica there before Antarctica is found. And that is a strange thing. That is definitely a strange thing. Now, Paul, to your point, do I necessarily take that as this is the Holy Grail, right? This is the big find? No, because I generally believe that humanity is relatively intelligent, right? That there were probably explorers that maybe they did find Antarctica, right? Maybe they, why would you go to your king or whatever it is that funds this expedition to go around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, right? And you get blown into a storm and all of a sudden you're down in these like super cold waters, right? And you start like, oh, there's a whole nother land that is worthless. It's just ice.
So I have potential solutions for why there is something that looks like it could potentially be Antarctica, which, by the way, has no actual relation to Antarctica at all. It doesn't match up to what Antarctica actually looks like. One of the reasons is that there were origins of Greek maps in the maps that he used, which did hypothesize that there was a landmass in the southern hemisphere. Right. The most simple explanation is that what he has written down was an ice-free depiction of Antarctica that's actually the South American coastline, because he was drawing on gazelle skin and trying to squeeze as much as he could into it. It looks like it may be Antarctica. We don't have the full map. And he also notes on his map that the region was very hot and full of snakes, which doesn't really make sense for Antarctica, but could be describing the Amazon jungle.
Yeah. But also, like, everything had snakes on it back then.
I don't think
You know,
Antarctica
it's
had
like-
snakes at any
No,
point.
well, no. I just mean, like, when you were at the end of a territory, there were like evil monsters and crazy things. You know what I mean? And like, probably to the Ottomans, snakes are pretty scary.
I guess.
Anyways, go ahead.
All right. So the maps is like
Agree to disagree.
It is agree to disagree. I think it's just a guy who had a shitty map. It could be that he had a map based on a map based on a map from 20,000 years ago. All their buildings were destroyed in the Americas, I guess, but their map made it. Is that what we're going with?
No, the map, but the knowledge, right? The knowledge is what keeps on. And that's kind of one of the interesting things that I think about Graham is that what would a advanced, semi-advanced, pre-industrial civilization that survives a cataclysmic, civilization destroying catastrophe, right? How would you go about rebuilding? And that is, I think, the most interesting question that Graham brings up. And so I just think it's a fun thought experiment on, you know, he always talks about in a lot of these different myths, what, you know, one of the big things in a lot of these civilizations is the bringer of knowledge, right? And so his theory isn't that the whole world was this civilization, right? There were still, you know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of hunter-gatherers, right? And in a world cataclysm, it's the hunter-gatherers that are going to survive, that still have the tools to make it through a terrible, awful cataclysm, right? They have the skill set to get them through this period. A person who lives in civilization, a person who's a potter, a person who is an artisan, a person who is a king or a priest, they don't have the physical and mental and know-how to survive without civilization. I mean, if I went out into the wilderness for a year, I would die. I would die in like 2 months. I would probably eat something and immediately die. And so what I just like to think, you know, what would that look like if you only had 4 or 5 people that survived this cataclysm and they come to a group of, you know, hunter-gatherers? What would you teach them? What would you pass on? What would you bring with you? What books, what knowledge, you know? And so, and that, of course, is within just a generation or two is going to become corrupted. And so how quickly does the corruption happen? And I think, you know, one of the best, most interesting finds recently is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. And that was, you know, the claim, the current claim is that this was created by hunter-gatherers. They just all of a sudden decided to build these giant megaliths and put all these crazy symbols on these megaliths. Just a bunch of hunter-gatherers who would come together all of a sudden and do it. But I kind of like the thought that this is one of the totems of the old civilization that was a siren out into the world of humanity saying, we're starting something again. This is the rebirth of something that we already had.
So my thing with this is that, yes, it's a fun thought experiment. I'm looking for actual convincing evidence that this guy's able to give that any of this occurred.
You don't like Göbekli Tepe?
I don't know what that is.
Oh man, dude, you need to look into Göbekli Tepe.
All right. So because he doesn't bring it up on this episode. The other thing that he
because that's in Turkey. His book was all about North America.
Well, he brings up the pyramids next.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's jump into the pyramids.
I love when he talks about the pyramids.
See what other weird shit you bring up that I haven't heard of before.
What would you say is the strangest thing you've come across?
I have to say, although it's standing there staring us in the face and has been doing so for thousands of years, that the Great Pyramid is the strangest thing I've ever come across.
Uh-huh.
It is utterly inexplicable. It's incredible precision. It's incredible scale. The notion that it was created as the tomb of a megalomaniac pharaoh, which is the notion pushed by Egyptology, is just absolute rubbish in my view. The degree and level of science involved in the creation of the Great Pyramid speaks to a far more noble objective. I'm not seeking to exclude the ancient Egyptians entirely from the story. The ancient Egyptians were involved in completing and finishing off the Great Pyramid. I think the casing stones of the pyramids were laid by the ancient Egyptians, but I think that the pyramids, the base of the pyramids, and particularly the mysterious subterranean chamber 100 feet vertically beneath the base of the Great Pyramid, I think that these are truly prehistoric.
So the Egyptians did some of it, but just like they bedazzled it.
Yeah.
They didn't actually set anything up.
Yeah.
So at this point,
and he's merely talking about the Great Pyramid. So the biggest pyramid in the three. And he does claim that the other two were probably built by the Egyptians.
So an ancient civilization built the first one, it hung around, and then the Egyptians were like, well, let's make two more.
No. The ancient civilization uses the building of the Great Pyramid, again, similar to Göbekli Tepe, as this siren out into humanity, he claims it's as a warning to humanity in the future, because they would see all of the inexplicable, what I think a lot of people in mainstream Egyptology see as coincidence. Graham sees as very much purposeful things. And so there's like a lot of things around pi and circumference. One of the big claims is that if you went back to like 10,800 BC, that the way that the pyramids are lined up project to Orion's belt, and things like that. And so he sees that more as that, the belief being that at the time that they knew that civilization wasn't strong enough to understand a lot of the advanced mathematics and astronomy that were going on with the creation of these things. But eventually we would, and hopefully that we would ask questions as to why these things happened, which we are a species that is incredibly forgetful.
Why? That is the most convoluted, awful plan. Why would you ever do that?
So the reason being, and this is why Graham thinks that there is, so I'm guessing he doesn't talk about this, or you didn't listen to the part. He may not have brought it up. I don't think he talks about a lot. He goes into it a little bit more in depth in his books. Essentially, his thinking is that the world goes on cataclysmic endeavors every 15,000 years or so, right? And it has to do with the different meteor clusters that are in our solar system. And so this previous civilization has left us clues as to the thing that will destroy civilization again.
Why wouldn't you just say it?
Because it wouldn't, if they did. And again, it's turned into
this. You realize this doesn't make any sense. They are humans who had a civilization, and then if it got destroyed, then they have to make super secret signals that you then would have to interpret when you get to a certain level of advancement. And then at that point, you can determine that there is something that's going to hit you in another 10,000 years. Why don't you just say it like we do with normal history, right? This could just be a continuation of history. Like, you know, we had the Dark Ages where we actually reversed. We lost track of a lot of things. We lost a lot of advancements, and humanity took a step back, but we don't just pretend like nothing happened prior to that. And we have documented everything all the way through. It would be like if after the Dark Ages, people just started like hiding secrets everywhere so that eventually one day when you get back to where you were before the Dark Ages.
You don't think they did? I mean, explicitly,
you think they did this? What you're describing, you think that happened in the Dark Ages?
Well, there were like stonemasons, and there were like secret organizations.
That's very different than what we're talking about.
I don't know if it is.
We're talking about a global cataclysm.
How? But I'm not convinced that there aren't elites that don't know about this. If it's true.
About the asteroid that's going to hit us again.
Meteors.
The meteors that are going to hit us again.
Right. So, like, I bet there are documents within the Vatican archives that discuss some of this. You know, the big one that he does go into a little bit of depth in, and again, he writes about it after it happens, is the Mayan calendar, right? The Mayan calendar, we all took as, oh man, 2012, what a bust, right? Like, stupid Mayans didn't know crap, right? But it's 2012 is more of this is our final, we're in the countdown now. Like this time is upon us. And within different circular motions of our solar system, of the galaxy, we have entered the phase where things become incredibly precarious.
Or, alternative theory, they just stopped making the calendar because it was really long.
Good. And listen,
you can't do it indefinitely. There's a point where you have to stop on the calendar.
And that can totally be the case too. But for the Mayans and pre-civilization before that, that point is incredibly important to them.
All right, let's ground this back in why he thinks the pyramids are so weird.
Okay, let's
because we're going all the way out here. Let's stick with his evidence right now. Okay.
All right.
So why he says because the pyramids, according to him, is the biggest piece of evidence on Earth right now.
We're gonna have to cut this episode into two.
Well, probably, and I didn't know that have you read all of his books?
I've only read two of his books.
Oh, I thought you would just listen to a podcast. I didn't know you had his entire repertoire memorized.
Oh yeah, I did.
All right, so let's get into why he thinks the pyramids are so as the biggest piece of evidence, right?
The Great Pyramid incorporates the dimensions of our planet. If you take the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid and multiply that by 43,200, you get the equatorial circumference of the Earth. If you take the height of the Great Pyramid and multiply it by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. And the number 43,200 isn't random. It's derived from a key motion of the Earth itself, which is called the precession of the Earth's axis, and that precession unfolds at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years, and 43,200 is a multiple of 72. So they've given us a monument that is almost precisely aligned to true north. The Great Pyramid weighs 6 million tons. It's got a footprint of 13 acres. And yet it is aligned to true north within 3/60ths of a single degree. So it's speaking
incredible.
to a key geographical feature of our planet, the true north pole. It's speaking to our planet, and then it's encoding the dimensions of our planet with a code that is derived from a key motion of the planet itself.
All right. So number one. All right. He talks about a couple things there, right?
Yeah.
We'll go with it's key to like north, right? It's pointing north.
Yeah.
They've already showed how they could have done that, and it was using the stars. They've even aligned it with what stars they would have used at the time that it was made.
Right.
So with carbon dating, they can only get the base of the pyramid within about 100 years by actually using the location versus the what the stars would have been aligned with at the time. They can pinpoint when they built the pyramids to about 5 years of that carbon dating, which is actually pretty interesting. So that one, it was perfectly possible. The other thing he talks about is just a bunch of numbers that he starts playing with, where if you take all these different numbers and then like the axis of the Earth changes slightly every 72 years. And then if you multiply 72 a bunch of times, then you get this bigger number. And then if you multiply that by the height, then you get the radius of the Earth, and you multiply that by the perimeter, then you get the circumference of the Earth. That's just playing with numbers at that point. That's not actually proving anything.
Yeah, some of that stuff I didn't completely buy, but his precession of the equinox stuff I do find pretty interesting.
What is that stuff?
The precession of the equinox is the length of time that, we can think it of as eras, right? And so you'll hear like we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, right? And each one of those last, I forget now. I think the whole thing is like 72,000 years. And so 12 divided by 72,000, because it's each one of the 12 zodiac signs that the Earth is pointing at any one time. So it's actually relatively interesting, because this is even biblical, right? So during the time of Moses, we were in the age of Aries, and the age of Aries, what's the big thing that Moses gets really ticked off about is they start worshiping a golden bull. The previous era was the age of Taurus. And then when you get to Jesus, what is the symbol of Jesus, especially for the poor at the time? It's a fish, because they were in the age of Pisces. And again, another big thought process within especially more ancient traditions is that there are things that happen at the cusp of these zodiacal processional changes. So the time between ages is a time of great we'll use revolution for lack of a better term.
Okay, so astrology is real and has some sort of predictive power is basically what you're saying.
That's not astrology. Like you actually, the actual zodiac signs exist. There is actually an Aries. There is actually, and again,
No, just can you please connect to me? Pisces, right? The fish,
right?
Jesus' symbol is a fish.
Yeah.
Is it because it is the age of Pisces? Is there predictive power coming from these stars?
No, it's not. But
or are we choosing these symbols based on what we're seeing in the sky? Like, what are we saying here?
I'm not doing a very good job explaining it.
We may need to cut this into two, dude. We're about to run out of time again.
Yeah.
We didn't even get halfway through the clips, I don't think. I guess we're almost done.
So here, let me do this. I'm just going to read off from Western Washington University. I hope that it's an EDU, so I hope that's good enough for you. All right. The Earth wobbles in space like an out of balance top. Each full wobble takes about 25,765 years. Because of the slow change in our orientation to the stars, the position of the sun on the first day, the day of spring, the vernal equinox, slowly shifts westward around the sky, which also moves it around our calendar. This is why we refer to the effect as a precession of the equinox. The rate of the shift is 1 day every 71 years. The position of the sun on the day of the vernal equinox is presently in the constellation of Pisces near the border of Aquarius. Modern star maps have the equinox entering Aquarius in about 600 years. The borders are arbitrary, but popular culture and mysticism often refer to current times as the dawn of the age of Aquarius, a time of peace and understanding. The concept of great ages associated with the position of the equinox is ancient, but the mysticism regarding the age of Aquarius is modern. Another effect of the Earth's precession is that the star nearest the North Celestial Pole changes over time. Our familiar North Star today is Polaris. We'll return to the position of the North Star again around 27,800 years, but due to its own proper motion around the galaxy, it will probably be further away from the pole than the 5 degrees it is now. Back in 23,600 BC, it was closer to the pole than it is now. So you are somewhat right. Like, humans gave that it was Pisces. They gave that it was Taurus, right? But the precision exists, right? And we just use that because that is the way that it ticks throughout our perception of where we are within our solar system, within our galaxy.
Okay. But what is the impact on civilization?
That's questionable. But
isn't that the whole point?
So if you're saying, you know, it depends. Like, oh, the moon's retrograde or whatever BS, right? And that means that great wealth is coming into your future. Yeah, okay, I don't believe that, right? But like, humanity has always looked at the stars, and we looked at the stars for meaning. And because of that, we've given meaning unto things. So people in Moses's time would have understood we were in the age of Aries. And because of that, the ram becomes a very important symbol to those people. The Jewish people used a ram's horn as a horn, right? They used a lot of ram symbology. You know, they get ticked if you start worshiping gods from other ages like Taurus, because we were in a new age. And so, yeah, is there any actual like effect from the stars? No, but we derive meaning as the people from the stars. And so that is where I think I agree with you. We put the meaning to it, right? Like that Pisces is just a bunch of star clusters. You know what I mean? And most of them aren't even actually close together, right? They're hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions not millions, but they're light years away from each other in actuality, right? but because of our perception, we're like, oh, look, that kind of makes a fish. And so, yeah, I agree with you. That fish doesn't mean anything, right? And it's the same thing with astrology. Like being born in December means that you're first, and you have all these different attributes, right? I think a lot of people born in December probably have similar attributes because they were around of a lot of family very early in their birth, right? Because we have Christmas and we have New Year's and we have all these things, right? If you're a spring baby, that means a little something different than if you're a fall baby or a winter baby or a summer baby. And those attributes get put into us, and then we look at the stars to give that meaning, right? When in actuality, it is our culture that is doing it.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we're gonna have to wrap this up, Chris. This may need to be a two-parter to talk through Graham Hancock.
Dude. Graham doesn't deserve anything better than a two-part series.
I guess that's where we're at. But that is going to be the first half of this, and then we will wrap this up next session. I did not expect you to have this much to say on this, Chris. You've read a lot of Graham.
I've read a lot of Graham, dude. He's my boy, and I've always had a fascination with ancient civilizations. You always made fun of me because I was always watching Ancient Aliens.
Constantly watching Ancient Aliens. I think that was the only thing you watched. Our TiVo was full of it.
Full of it. But it's because I think there is something that we have not learned from our ancient forebears. And Graham,
assuming they existed.
I'm talking about the start of all the restart of civilization is that
alleged. We got 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
So I just think that there's something that we can learn from that time period, things where we made mistakes, and those mistakes have stayed with us now for 7,000 years. And so I'm always endlessly fascinated by people who do put a magnifying glass to that period. And so my thing with Ancient Aliens wasn't the aliens, right? It was the ancients. And it was one of the only places that I could get into these beginnings of civilization. At least on like the History Channel.
I was going to say, I think there are other places you can go to learn about the beginnings.
And I went to those places.
But to be fair, that was what was on History Channel, or it was like the Civil War. But that will have to be it for today. Thank you so much for listening to Coast to Coast PM, the #1 unofficial Coast to Coast AM podcast. My name is Paul, here with my brother Chris.
Hey, baby, all conspiracy all the time.
And we'll see you next time.